He is interrupted from his work by his classmates in the background, talking about a new reincarnation fortune teller in town and how some of them went to get their fortune told, and they found out that one of them was a royal gardener in his previous life and the other was not even a person. He internally curses at the loud noises because they are not letting him concentrate on his work. He gets annoyed as he thinks that he is never going to become someone who has it. A girl enters a classroom who, judging by her looks nothing like a high school student, and she glares at her classmates, and they suddenly and immediately scatter to clear out of her way. She goes on her way and sits down on a desk next to the boy. She by default has a grumpy expression which quickly is replaced by a sleepy and cutesy expression as she yawns because she is sleepy. Shortly afterwards, she goes to sleep just like that on her desk. The rest of the people in class finally let out a breath or relief as there was chatter about how she surprised everyone, and she has not been coming to school for about a month and she is wearing a hood. The boy looks over at her and sees a scroll in her things. He stares at it and the girl opens her eyes as well as she asks him why he was staring at her passionately. He apologizes for being rude and says that it is rare to see Hato come to school and asks why she came today. She replies that she came to kill time because she is free until the night as told by Newman, her friend. With a gleeful voice, she asks him if she can copy the assignments and printouts from him, and he agrees as he says that he does not mind sharing them. Even though her behavior is very bad, she would never receive any punishment ever because she is someone who has it. There is a popular story. She has been invited to the kendo club with a scholarship, and right after entering the school, she completely abolished the whole club because she was too strong, and the people that saw her and fought against her, all of their wills were broken because of the high difference in talent and strength. Because of that, there are endless rumors about her, starting from the fact that Kendo Union asked her to refrain from entering tournaments, or that the reason that she does not come to school is because she is traveling around the country and become even more powerful by honing her skills, and that she continues to defeat dojos after dojos, or because she is killing people night after night on secret orders or something. It is not surprising that there are so many rumors about her because she is at a level which is unable to reach by just hard work alone. She is a genius. He notices her staring at him and he asks her if something is wrong, and she looks the other way as she says that it's nothing. He looks away and Hato glances at him again and smiles mischievously. He walks down the road with a book in his hand as he turns the pages while reading through it. A voice calls out for him from behind and he heads a step behind him as the voice asks him to stop and wait. He turns around to see that it is none other than Hato. She jumped from somewhere onto the railing of the bridge they were both on, and in surprise, he asks where she is standing. Hato just gestures that she finished copying his notes, so that is why she came to give them back. He says that she was really fast with copying, and she says that by copying she meant photocopy. He apologizes that she had to go out of her way to return and tells her that since it was not urgent, she could have given it back to him the day after. While he is talking, she stares intently at him and suddenly holds his face and leans in close to him. He tries to back away as he asks what the matter is, and she replies absent-minded that she was curious about his eyes, his deep and shadowy eyebrows. No one would be able to tell that he liked to study. She points at the book in his hand and asks him why he is giving his all to that extent. He pauses before he says that if he tells her the reason, then she might start laughing at him, but he is searching for talent. He hides his face using his book and says through a muffled voice that right now, this is the latest fortress, that is all. She stares at him confusingly, and he sighs as he says that until now, he has tried to learn violin, piano, the flute, painting, dancing, swimming, basketball, all kinds of sports, and even kendo. However, he did not have any talent in whatever he tried to learn. Hato says that when she looks at him, she wouldn't think that he wouldn't be able to learn any of the things he named. And it seems like he has a lot of ambition, and he works hard as well. He tells her that there are always people that are ahead of him, and no matter what field he chooses, there are people who are superior and way ahead of him. Even without comparing himself to anyone specific, he can understand shortly that even if he spends his entire life on that one skill, he could never come close to being at the same level as others. He fully knows the extent of how lowly he is. His expression turns a bit sour as he addresses her that she has everything, so the feelings of someone like him who has nothing would never be understood. She pauses and asks him if he is sure as she takes hold of his tie and pulls him towards her and says that the two of them are really similar, though that is what she thinks. They lock eyes together, and he pushes away as he thinks how her piercing eyes can look straight through him, and he excuses himself, saying that he has cram school, so they should talk about this some other time. When she questions the cram school, he says that he goes to 2 cram schools right in front of the station, one after the other. She gets a warning alert on her phone as she asks him if he will stay until late, because tonight there will be a beautiful and great full moon. He waves bye to her as he walks away. She addresses her phone as Newman and asks what his name was. Newman, which appears to be her phone, says that she should remember because he sits right next to her in class. His name is Senji Tuya. Newman asks why she didn't warn Tuya about the moon tonight. She should have told him to skip cram school and stay away from the station because he will make a move for sure tonight. She says that even if she had warned him, he would not listen because Tuya would have gone anyway. She could see it in his eyes. Newman asks if she wants to involve him in their business, and she says that it will be fun, while a few high school boys are walking down the street while talking and bump into an older person. The boys terrorize the man, telling him to watch where he is going, and the older man just apologizes and takes their bullying. One of the boys holds onto the man's shoulder and says that if he is going to apologize, then he should look straight at them and do it. The older man turns to face them and laughs with a creepy smile and excuses himself. The boys get freaked out by the man and run away from the place. The man picks up a weird-looking dagger or finger knife from the ground, and he looks up at the sky as he asks for the night to come quickly. As he walks past 2 girls, there are beetles behind him in his trail, and one of the girls asks the other if she is paying attention to her. But the other girl just says that she just saw some beetles and maybe she is seeing things. After cram school, the students pour out as there is general talk of exhaustion and such from the students around, and few students talk about someone in their cram school who gets top scores every time. Tuya sits as he stares at his exam scores with a bitter expression as he crumbles up his result sheet and throws it in the bin next to him. He thinks how even studying he doesn't excel at. He stops himself from being pessimistic because otherwise everything he has done up until now would go to waste. There should be something, at least one thing, at least one talent, or he can surpass his brother by using. He's broken out of his train of thought from the loud noise of people talking about some sort of revenge, and the other person says that they have no talent, so they should go reincarnate and start from the beginning. Tuya stands up exclaiming that he is tired and the noise from around him feels too strong and he should refresh his head and go home. Sometimes it is good to take a little detour as well. He starts at the moon, which is shining very brightly, and remembers that just like Hato said, tonight really is a full moon. There are some policemen at the scene. 2 of them approach a third one and say that they couldn't find anyone. The third policeman, who looks like a senior, says that someone reported a loud scream from somewhere around here, and the other notices someone under the bridge in the darkness, that there is someone crouching over there. The senior asks them to go take a look at the person and see if it is just a drunk person or not. He orders them to go check it out, and when the 2 of them reach for the person at the ground, as he asks if the person is all right. The other policeman notices that there are beetles around in the air, and the person turns to the policeman as he says not to mind him. The policeman notices the man holding a bowl full of blood and dismembered body parts. The guy was eating a person. As soon as he realizes this, he ends up dying, and the other policeman gets splattered with the other guy's blood and in surprise. There sounds from inside, and the policeman outside wonders what is going on and asks if someone was shot, and when he does not get any reply, he sees one of the policemen and asks him what happened. And the policeman just asks for reinforcements, and before he can say any more, his head is cut in half. The senior runs to call for reinforcements, but he gets held up by his head, and as he yells for the man to stop. The man that is holding him says that they can't stop because he is having so much fun. He crushes the policeman's head with his bare hands until only mush remains, and all the blood is splattered everywhere. From afar, this scene is witnessed by Tuya as he sees the dead bodies of the policemen on the floor. He sees beetles around the man as he freaks out that he should not be watching this so casually and that he should run away from the place as fast as possible, but his body won't move. But he knows that he isn't in fear of any sort. All he feels is that he is being taken in by the killer's talent. He grits his teeth in disgust as the killer marvels at his own talent, still not noticing Tuya's presence nearby. From behind Tuya, a voice says that when people see talent in front of them, there are 3 things that they can feel: admiration, fear, and jealousy. Tuya questions to himself whether what he has been feeling is envy. Hato comes and pats him on the shoulder as she continues saying that those that feel jealousy are the ones that have a greater chance of getting hold of the talent themselves. She smiles and says that it is what she believes anyway. If it is him, she is sure that he will bloom petals. He is confused by her words and wonders what she is talking about and what she means by petals and wonders why she is here. Hato starts talking again that seeing such a tragic thing and still being envious of talent she then addresses the killer, saying that he is a bit too immersed. The killer immediately has a soft smile on his face as he wishes good evening and says that it has been a while since he saw Hato. Tuya is surprised that the two of them know each other, and Hato says that Newman had to do a lot of work to find the killer. It seems that the killer enjoys his talent a bit too carelessly. The killer replies while cleaning the blood off his knife that he is just following his talent, and if there is something bad, then it has to be their back in luck in being in that place, even though he is grateful for them for pulling out his amazing talent. Tuya wonders what he means by pulling out talent, but the killer smiles creepily and says that he is thankful to them as well, so he will make food out of them and eat the two of them. Hato points at Tuya as she says that she does not care what he does. She just wants him to keep Tuya out of this because he is an outsider. In a blink of an eye, the killer has Tuya in his grip by the neck, and he swings his knife towards him but ends up hitting the ground with his knife. With Tuya in one hand and Newman in the other who initiates prediction calculation, Hato says that the killer is easy to see through and asks if they even need the prediction calculation. Newman says that a disturbing prediction can come out, so it is important that they do the calculation just to be sure. Tuya suddenly blurts out that he must be tired because he is hallucinating such a bizarre thing, and his hallucinations are a bit more fantasy than he thought they would be like. Hato looks at him and asks if he is trying to escape reality in situations such as this. She says that it would be better for him if all of this was a reality because this is his chance to get a talent. She explains that the petals that can be seen are the sign of someone who pulled out the talent from their previous life. Newman adds that it is called transmigration, where from the branch of a person's reincarnation, they can pull out the talent from their previous life, and those who succeed in transmigration are called returners. Newman lets out a robotic expression of pain as Hato smacks her phone. She says that he is too noisy and the killer will hear them. Newman says that if she wants Tuya to get involved, then he should be explained to so that he can understand. She turns to Tuya and says that she is sure that he will believe them. He has no choice but to believe because no matter how untalented he is in this life, he can always take talent from his previous life as his own. He looks at her with a baffled expression as she takes out a knife and shows it to him. He wonders if she wants to fight using that, and Newman says that the knife is the transmigration technique as Hato takes hold of the knife and puts it against her neck, and Newman tells him to pay close attention to what is happening. All of a sudden, he sees Hato's body fall lifeless, and he rushes to catch her from falling to the ground and freaks out and calls for her name. The killer finds them and walks towards them as he says that he will make sure that when he kills them it won't be painful. Tuya panics because the blood from her neck wouldn't stop, and when he touches her neck, he notices that it is not blood but instead it's petals. As the killer is about to swing his knife to end their life, Hato stops the knife with her bare hands and pushes the killer away. Due to the transmigration, her hair has now turned darker, and she calls for her two swords, the Gut Cutter and Head Reaper, as they appear in her hands. She slices at the killer who coughs up blood. Newman says that the heroes and extraordinary geniuses eventually die because after all they are people, but ironically, when they die their sounds transmigrates and the talents of those great people are reborn in the present. Tuya about how captivated he felt by Hato, and without even any shyness his heart was beating really fast. The talent in front of his eyes was very beautiful. The killer unroots an entire tree as he calls Hato rude repeatedly for coming at him and cutting him with her blades so suddenly. Although it only felt like an itch and nothing more, he will have to hit her with the tree in his hands to pay her back and make her quiet down. Hato performs some sort of attack, which is so fast that it cuts the tree into 4 pieces. She tells the killer that he shouldn't try to get her with something so lame, and instead, they should try to cut each other instead. Tuya, who witnessed this just now, can't believe whether she was the one who cut the tree because he didn't see her move. Newman explains that he should be happy that such a scene is unfolding in front of him because it's a swordsmanship born of great history. Miyamoto Musashi's talent. The killer says that he will answer to her if cutting each other is what she wishes for, and he runs towards her with a pot in his hands, which gets cut up again by Hato. Tuya thinks about how amazing she is, and his eyes or his consciousness can keep up with the pace. It is almost like an inhuman territory. He starts to tremble when he remembers the look on her face again, and Newman, who is in his hand, asks if he is trembling in fear and tells him that there is nothing to be worried about. But Tuya is actually trembling because of the adrenaline rushing through him, because he is thinking how wonderful it is. He thinks that if reincarnation exists, then there is a chance. It is much more fascinating than earning talent through hard work. He wants to know the way to pull out his talent. He stares at the killer, and Newman says that he is Albert Fish. Tuya is confused, to which Newman says that it seemed like he wanted to know about the past life of the killer. Albert Fish was a serial killer who killed 400 people in his lifetime, and they called him the Moon Maniac as the worst serial killer in American history. The origin of that alias is that his murders often took place at the time of full moon, so that is why Hato talked about the full moon earlier. Newman says that you can only pull out the talent from a previous life, but you can't choose the talent that you get. There are talents of great people and heroes who led the way of humanity's advancement, and there are also talents of terrible criminals, killers, and dictators who are only a harm to humanity. Tuya considers that if there is a chance, then he would live to bet on it either way. Newman adds that the branch of reincarnation is getting spread out for townspeople too, and there will be more and more returners from now on. They are a benefit for humanity, then they are welcomed, and if they are a harm, then they have to quickly eliminate them. It is their mission and the reason they are here. Hato almost gets hit by the killer's attack, and Newman tells Tuya not to get close, and there is nothing to worry about. The killer smirks as he says that he had high expectations from the master fencing talent of hers, but he is disappointed instead. Even though she is fast, her blade is dull, and she only delivers small wounds. Hato smirks, and as he is about to continue, he gets slashed by her blade. Newman says that it is a bad habit on her part, but she likes to enjoy the fight and likes to have fun while being playful. Hato lays out an attack that ends up giving several cuts to the killer, and Newman says that if it is a clear sword fight, then he is no match for a historical swordsman. Hato tells him that in his previous life he was executed by an electric chair, and in this lifetime he is going to be beheaded. All of a sudden, Newman tells Tuya to bend his body by 30 centimeters as a knife comes flying right next to him, and there is an explosion. Hato runs towards him and wonders what the killer will set up for them next time as she looks at the burning police car where the killer was just at. When there is no movement, she wonders if he died and asks Newman for prediction calculation. Newman says that there is a 75% chance that the killer is alive and out there, but even if he is, the cuts and scars will wear him out and he will be grilled to death. But he could also be using the explosion to hide himself away. She hears some footsteps and gets ready to attack, but it is just a bunch of onlookers that are passing by. However, Newman tells them that something is wrong, and the killer emerges from the car. The explosion wasn't to get Tuya involved, and it wasn't so that he could take advantage and hide, but it was bait. The killer opens his mouth and eats the kids one by one. Albert Fish's talent was killing because he had an aim which was to eat his victims. Hato runs towards him to stop him, but he disappears and pins her to the ground from above. By eating people, he probably powers himself up and then transforms into something stronger. Tuya wonders if something like that is even possible, and Newman says that logic doesn't apply in this case. If a talent goes above and beyond, then it gets to a level of unreal territory. The people who left their name in history are not normal people. Hato fights back by using her sword techniques, but the killer remains unharmed as he punches Hato in the stomach, and she goes flying back. Newman says that she will faint due to a concussion, and there are serious injuries on her body. Newman stops Tuya by saying that it is impossible for average people to go against returners, and it is out of their hands now. He should get away as fast as possible. Tuya worries about Hato, and Newman reminds him that it is not something he should be concerned about. The killer approaches Hato's unconscious body on the floor as he talks about how tasty she looks and leans down to lick her and ready to eat. Tuya takes a piece of glass and cuts his arm as blood drips. The killer immediately turns towards the blood, and Tuya says that he knew the killer was sensitive to fresh blood. When Newman asks what he is doing, Tuya says that he is acting as bait to gain them more time. Even though he thinks what he is doing is idiotic, he wants talent. Running away is not something that he wants, and he hasn't even heard how he can get a talent yet. Newman says that he will get killed and there won't even be a future for him. Tuya says to him that he decided this is what he wants to bet his life on. He wants to know who splatters the petals, and while he's at it, he wants to hear from Halfcock because she is the one who got him involved. He won't let her die no matter what. A girl throws an apple to a guy and talks about how brave Tuya is. The man says that he is willing to give him his life for a woman, and he is so selfless. The man has an apple for a head and calls the girl Ain as he tells her that she hates men too much when Ain says that Tuya is doing all that for himself anyway. After some bickering, they decide to go help and ask Newman for permission. Newman says that there is no need to go, and they are all left surprised at this. The killer says that he loves fresh meat, and it is nice to compare tastes too. While Tuya is in self-doubt whether he can fight against the killer or not, Newman gives him instruction as he dodges a punch subconsciously that the killer throws his way. In the 19th century, there was a mathematician that carried out calculations. One of them with a large rule, another one with a desktop calculator. However, he turned towards the ceiling and put out the right answer, counting in his head faster than the other two. His name was John von Neumann, the father of modern computers, a great person thought to be a demon because of his extreme calculation skills. Tuya calls out for Newman out of breath as he runs. He says that he has been running away without looking back, but he doesn't think that the killer is chasing after him. Newman says that since the moon is shining brightly, the shadows are deeper, so he thinks that the killer fish is going to take advantage of the dark. She predicts that the next attack will arrive in 2 seconds and gives instructions to Tuya to run forward. Suddenly, a car flies in behind him and Newman tells him to jump by some distance. Newman tells him that his talent is to calculate every single action. If Tuya abides by his orders, then Fish's attack can't reach him. The killer seems to be clearly having fun as he uses a whip to attack Tuya, but Newman says that it seems to be a belt that he is willing, but the purpose is the same as the whip. Newman gives Tuya precise instruction to dodge Fish's attacks, which he does flawlessly. When he is falling down, he gets hit by the whip and the killer marvels and exclaims that he hit him. Tuya considers that his reactions are a bit off. Even though Newman is giving correct instructions, if he can't move then eventually, he will be worn out. Newman tells him that he is at his limit and his body is trembling when Tuya says that he can still move. Newman tells him to step back a few steps so he can avoid being hit, and the killer approaches them as he realizes that Tuya isn't running away anymore. But he is fine with that. All of a sudden, the building falls apart on top of him, and thinking that something like this will at least set the killer back for a few minutes, but the killer lifts off the rubble with one hand and comes out unscathed. Newman smirks as she says that everything is going as she had expected it to. As soon as she says that the killer's head is cut off by none other than Halfcock. Newman tells her that she has a lot of injuries and her ability to move has deteriorated drastically. No matter how good she is, but in her current stare she can't pass judgment on Fish. Halfcock still remains determined though, and as she gets ready to fight the killer, she thinks Tuya. She remembers only Hazily, but he protected her. He tells her that he only did it for his personal benefit. She promises him that when the fight ends, she will tell him about the talent from a previous life as she rushes into battle against the killer. Newman tells Tuya to go to the other side of the station because it is dangerous to be in the middle of it, and as Halfcock fights Fish and strikes him with her sword attack, he laughs as he calls her lenient and asks if she even has the will to kill him. Her plan is to set the timing for the train. Fish catches on to her tactics as he asks if she is waiting for the train to hit him because surely she wouldn't think of that. Halfcock smirks as she says that his judgment is quite good for someone that is a mindless cannibal killer. Someone like him isn't worthy of being pierced by her blade. Fish pauses and asks if she is right. He uses his belt to strike her and wraps it around her to capture her and pulls her towards the train pathway. Newman says that some cargo trains will arrive in a minute or so. Fish mocks her and asks if she can tell jokes in this situation. Halfcock smirks as she says that she was never joking because he will be run over by a train and die. He laughs and says that before the train comes, he will behead her as she wishes. She in turn uses a sword technique while bound up, and a bunch of different swords show up at his face. He looks down to see Halfcock covered in swords as well as she is intently staring at him. She welcomes him to her point of death. Newman says that she set it all up. She uses a mental state through swordsmanship when their abilities are rivaled, and their point of death overlaps both parties to a point where they can't smash each other. She wraps the opponent in blades and erases their mind. It's a swordless sword technique. She uses the point that both of them can't move. Tuya realizes that if both of them can't move, then what will she do? The train rushes forward as Fish laughs as he realizes that she wanted to bring him along with her from the start. He tells her that they should settle this in hell. Hato laughs and asks what he is saying because he is the only one that is going to hell. Just then, Tuya rushes in to push her out of the way as Fish gets hit by the trains and perishes. As they lay on the ground, she laughs weakly that she has been saved by him again, and he grunts that he only did it for his own sake, because he would be in trouble if she died. She promised that she will tell her about the talent of a previous life. She smiles and takes off his hand to get up, asking where she should start. Hato talks to Newman, and Newman tells her that she will evaluate Tuya for her. He was really superior. He has a craving for talent. He has the qualifications to be welcomed in the forest. Newman says that she told him to take a Rain's branch. Suddenly, Hato bursts into laughter, and when Newman asks what is so funny, she says that they have been outwitted, or maybe the goddess of luck smiled on the other side. She reveals that Tuya won't ever come back, what he longed for, and also how it is used. He finally got his hands on both of them. Meanwhile, Tuya has the dagger for the transmigration up to his throat with a smirk on his face. Tuya sits in his bedroom with a table in front of him with the dagger on it. He remembers Hato's words where she said to slit your throat for the transmigration to begin. He holds up the knife and points it to his neck and tries to slit his throat, but his hands keep shaking and he is unable to do it. He sighs and exclaims that it's not easy to slit your throat while being conscious. He should have gone with the flow of the day before and done it right then. It was a great chance to get a hold of a talent. He thinks that slitting your throat could mean that if you hate yourself, then go kill it. But there is no time for him to chicken, and since the dagger is something he stole, they could be coming to get it any time, so before they come he needs to pull out his talent. Hato shows up behind him all of a sudden and tackles him down and swings her sword as she asks him to die just once. She smacks him with a wooden sword. Later, she asks him to forgive her because she had to take the branch in his possession. She asks if he is angry at her, but he says that only his face is swollen, but she needs to take responsibility if he is chased out of his apartment, and who should he mail the invoice for broken appliances? She says that he also is responsible for not having transmigrated in the meantime. She gives the branch knife back to him and says that she is there to find out what kind of talent he will awaken, or should she say that she was waiting for him and that there wasn't any need for him to steal it. But if he is not going to use him, then she is going to take it back with her. He takes it in his hand and brings it closer to him, but Hato notices that he seems scared to do it. He immediately says that he is not scared, but she says that it is okay. She knows how scary it can be, but she still slits her throat, because her desire for talent overrides her fear. She sits next to him and tells him that he can talk to her when he feels like it. It could lighten his burden after all. She places her hand on top of his and gives a reassuring smile, and when he asks her what she is doing, she says that he seemed to be struggling, so that is why she is holding his hand. He doesn't have to put up a strong facade. He thinks that she is quite insensitive, but it felt warm when she showed him compassion. Hato asks him what's wrong, and when he looks at her confused, she says that he's crying. He says that he was touched by her concern and thanks her for being kind. He says that they must really need to increase the number of returners they have, and she says that it's true that's why Newman asked to approach those with potential, but that is not why she cares about him. She just couldn't leave him alone, and when he asks what she means, she just says that she told him before that they both were alike. His eyes are exactly like hers before she got her talent. A bunch of figures appear from behind her, and Tuya is too shocked to say anything before one figure extends out to Hato. It turns out to be a girl who says that she came to get Hato. Hato says that it's too sudden, but they have quite a group. Tuya notices the group of people that showed up, and they are all returners. Newman introduces herself in the flesh now, and when they both shake hands, Newman squeezes his hands too tightly, and Hato whispers to him that Newman hates being called cute. Hato introduces everyone. Hato tells him that everyone wanted and wished for a talent, that is why they got it. Newman adds that if he doesn't have that kind of resolution, then he can leave the branch and go back to his daily life. Hato turns around before leaving and says that it's going to be fine because his face is full of resolution. She says that they will come again tomorrow, and when they meet again, they should meet as fellow returners. He walks down a road with a heavy mind. He thinks of his brother who excelled in his studies and sports and even in arts, so much so that people called him God's child. They started to compare him and his brother and pressured him, who had no talent. Then his genius brother died from illness, so it was his role now to be a genius. He doesn't want to disgrace his family, that's why he has to get a hold of his talent. He wants revenge on those people that looked down on him. He holds the knife up to his neck and smirks as he slices his neck with the branch. There's blood everywhere, but Tuya has a smile on his face nonetheless as he lays there lifeless. The members of the forest fight Ed Giant, whose talent is body dismembering. Applehead is Newton as he throws apples that destroy everything in their path. Einstein uses special transference to make his arm disappear, and when he sees a soldier running after him, he slices through him thinking that he won, but the other members just laugh because the one who got shot is actually him, not the undead soldier, and the members deal with him for the better. All the members that went on that mission come back as the injured soldier does to Nightingale to heal. Hato goes up to Tuya and asks what he is doing as she sees him sorting through some stuff and asks if Newman is making him do odd jobs. Newman says that since no one else works hard in the forest, Tuya is really helpful. Einstein comes in and smacks Newton's head as she says that she is against having newcomers. Newton says that she just hates men and gets a beating from her. Einstein points at Tuya and says that his talent is a criminal's talent anyway, and Newman adds that it doesn't mean that he will become the person from his past life. And his talent was considered a hero thief anyway. Hayden jumps to hug Einstein as she says that since she approved of him, they should see how it goes. Einstein's face flushes as she lets out defeatedly that they can see how it works. Tuya asks Newman to check his work, and she tells him that he is done for the day, and he should go home and let his body recover from exhaustion. She warns him to forget that the talent he gained is heaven's blessing. As he is walking down the road, he hears a shriek that someone's bag got stolen, and he asks Newman for help, who tells him not to be reckless because he is still not used to transmigration. But Tuya slices his neck with the branch anyway. The thief is coming straight at him and tells him to get out of the way or he'll be sent flying. But Tuya uses his talent to steal the things in the bag without the thief noticing. He goes to the lady and says that he already got the stuff inside the bag. But when the girl runs after the thief saying that the bag is more important, he looks down at his hand where there is blood on the ground. The thief from before faints, and Newman says that he managed to steal his blood and made him faint. He considers that he should concentrate on perfecting his talent for now because as long as he has his talent, he can use it any way he wants. Tuya wakes before 6 without an alarm, and Newman on his phone says that it's boring to wake him up when he wakes up before his alarm goes off. Tuya takes it as a compliment and asks what his job is for today, and Newman tells him that it is the expulsion of an evil returner. He nods and starts to change his clothes as Newman says that he should show more excitement because the job is the most honorable of the forest. Tuya tells her that it seems more interesting than all the previous jobs he's had. Newman tells him that the target is John Gacy, who is a murderer known as Killer Clown. He dresses up as a jolly and friendly clown and approaches children to kill them, and he's on the run again. So his job is to stop and get rid of him. He goes to a school and is confused why they would need to go to the school and tells Newman that he doesn't have any affection towards school. Newman tells him to go to the school's dojo. He thinks that the kendo club is deserted and no one should be using the dojo right now. Newman tells him that his talent is not suited for battle, so he will always be with at least another person on expulsion missions. When he goes inside, he sees the equipment in the club all used up. Newman shouts through the phone as she calls for Hato to wake up. Hato moves around before finally waking up as she yawns and thanks Tuya for coming to pick her up. Newman says that her talent overshadows any sort of hard work, so she doesn't need to practice until midnight. But Hato starts to change her clothes when Newman asks Tuya to say something to her too. Hato sees him covering his eyes and is confused how to answer. When Hato comes out, they make their way to their target. She asks Newman when their target is going to attack, and Newman says that their target won't attack until the next, so Hato says that they can walk and have a chat about why she wanted a talent. She wants to tell, but only if Tuya wants to listen. He asks her to tell him, and she says that she only started being called a genius when she gained her talent and got popular, but before that she was just a normal person. Tuya considers that her looks and names don't seem normal, but Hato says that she was an abandoned child. She was thrown outside an orphanage, and that's where she was brought up. This shocks Tuya, and he has to stop and brace himself before he asks her to continue. She adds that being at the orphanage was terrible and all the children carried shadows, and you could see that something was different. They kept everyone together because it was easier, and they would pretend not to see anything, so they would do nothing but make her cry every day. Then she got adopted by a dojo instructor, and he taught her how to use the sword, and she wanted to become a swordsman to make him proud. But she had no talent for the sword. It was at that moment when she heard about the branch in transmigration and searched for it. She wants to become a perfect returner and go back to reopen the dojo. When they reach the place for their target, Newman warns them about the attack, and shortly after the clown introduces himself. Heido uses transmigration, and the clown finds himself unable to move as if he has been engulfed, and he is defeated in one hit. For some reason, it seemed that Heido's transformation was even more remarkable than before. From the sidelines, there is a mysterious figure that talks about change of plans to target the newly appeared individuals. Heida and Tuya are walking down a street. She sobs because she feels terrible that Tuya's family looks down on him because of his brother. However, Tuya tells her that even though his brother passed away several years ago, he still tries his best to follow in his footsteps. As they walk by, they see that Tuya's room is lit. Tuya thinks Heido forgot to turn them off. They think he is a criminal and want to arrest him. They charge in, and Tuya announces that Heido will use her power to immobilize whoever is inside. For a moment, Tuya thinks it's his brother, but realizes it's his brother's friend, Kitazuka. Tuya asks what he's doing here. Kitazuka was excited to see Tuya compliment him for growing taller. The last time he saw him, he was only a young boy. Heido asks Tuya about Kitazuka, and he explains that he is his older brother's friend. Kitazuka shows them a childhood photo of Tuya that he has framed and placed on the cupboard. Kitazuka tells Heido that they are just like brothers. He tells her that when Tuya was little, he chased after his older brother Seida, and meanwhile, Kitazuka would repeatedly jump between them. Tuya explains that Kitazuka is a genius, just like his brother, and he is also a martial arts expert and is the team lead of a secret force. Kitazuka, although flattered by it, asks Tuya why he hasn't been attending school. He thinks Heido is his girlfriend, but Tuya explains it is a misunderstanding. Tuya decides to show him his talent. Although Heido is worried, Tuya calms her down by telling her that Tuya is a person they can trust. Kitazuka makes fun of Tuya and calls him a failure for giving up on his present and summoning a talent from the past. Heido loses her temper and charges at Kitazuka, but he subdues her with one move. Heido is impressed by Kitazuka's strength and admiration for his talent, but Kitazuka walks out the door, reminding him that Sia would lament the state of Tuya. Tuya does not let it get to him because deep down, he knows now he can surpass his brother. Outside, unbeknownst to anyone, a squad of armed forces awaits Kitazuka. They ask them about their mission, but Kitazuka calls it off. When his friend inquires, he tells him it's his friend's brother. Kitazuka has a flashback of Seiya telling him to take care of Tuya. Back at the force's headquarters in Cell 3, a fugitive called Nostradamus welcomes Kitazuka. Kitazuka shows him the branch of reincarnation that he took from Tuya and Heido. Nostradamus refuses to tell Kitazuka anything and instead gives him 2 prophecies for the day. He will escape unharmed, and secondly, all of creation shall bow before his king. Suddenly, the handcuffs shatter and the firing squad opens fire at Nostradamus, but he dodges all of them. Before leaving, Nostradamus offers everyone a chance to become reincarnations. Kitazuka asks about Nostradamus's king and is told that there exists a faction called the Gathering of the Greats. Somewhere, the Greats are battling a sinner. They team up against him and almost defeat him, but he is protected by an eye with 2 pupils. Nostradamus appears and calls him the king of all reincarnated with unimaginable power. A meeting is called at the Greats' headquarters regarding the 2-eyed pupils. Newman warns everyone of their terrible situation. Picasso explains that they were skirmishes by a group of reincarnators and that he almost became apple juice. Newman needs clarification. She thinks it's some companion's doing, but still wishes to gather information before acting. Looking worried, Picasso tries to get everyone's attention to a drawing suddenly appearing on a nearby wall, but Tuya ignores him. He looks at Heido, who is still not over Kitazuka, defeating her with one move. Alas, Picasso gains Newton's attention. He points everyone to the drawing, and they link it to yesterday's 2-eyed pupils. They ask Newman, but she denies knowledge, which further scares everyone. Finally, Newman orders that they eradicate them regardless of whether they are their companions or just sinners. She calls for the gathering of the greats. Their first mission concerns an entity that has impaled several humans. The greats confront the entity and figure out his name is Vlad the Impaler, a sinner. The battle starts. The replicator uses his talent and creates multiple clones. Tuya hides behind a wall. His phone beeps. In the meeting, Newman decided that they would split into groups of 3, with one squad serving as backup. Tuya is recommended to stay behind cover and not interfere, and he says he understands his assignment. Back at the battlefield, Yahello and Newton barely escape Vlad's talent. Newman analyzes Vlad's talent and alerts everyone that he is like a snake in hiding. Yahello rushes towards Vlad, dodging his talent. Yahello tries to shoot him, but Vlad uses his talent to shield himself. Vlad retreats and hides behind a wall. Suddenly, passing through the wall in his chest, a hand appears. It's Tuya's talent. He tries to steal a vital organ from his body. Vlad falls defeated, and everyone congratulates Tuya for using his talent in battle. Suddenly, Vlad gets up and everyone mocks Tuya for needing more practice. Vlad, too, mocks Tuya for not defeating him when he had the chance to use his talent. But suddenly, the eye with 2 pupils appears on Tuya and Vlad vanishes. King tells Tuya to stand down and he follows the order. The eye tells Tapes, a sinner, to stand down and he retreats. Everyone else notices the appearance of the eye and all squads gather near him. Seeing that everyone has gathered, the King asks them how they are doing. He greets all the old greats and the new ones as well, but none of them remember him. He then diverts his attention towards Newman and asks her if she still talks about benefiting humanity. The King tells them that the greats cannot judge talents based on their personal criteria of right and wrong. He mentions that the talents should live freely. Nostradamus appears and mocks them, but then he retreats with the King. Everyone now asks Newman, and she finally reveals that the 2-eyed pupil is the testament of King, a tyrant king named Tuya who originally created the Gathering of the Greats. In a flashback, Einstein is seen hiding behind Ku, who teaches her to control her talent. Translocation. It is the first time the greats have been gathered. They share a laugh and introduce themselves to each other. At the headquarters, Einstein is breaking things, questioning Newman about how Ku is alive, but Newman is clueless, which enrages her even more. Yahello gives her a hug and tries to calm her down. Fosaka wonders what history Einstein has with Ku, but Newman yells that they must end Ku once and for all because he is too dangerous. Newman reveals that the Gathering of the Greats had only 5 members back in the day. The person who brought them together was selfless and gave the agenda to save humanity from sinners. Those words became the basis for the Gathering of Greats, and now it has expanded to a considerable number. Newman asks who this person is so he may help them defeat Ku, but Newman tells him that he was killed by Ku. It is revealed that Ku loves conflict and his talent is legendary. Newman suggests that they defeat Ku and his recruited sinners, but Newman reveals that Ku has gathered mighty sinners who created hell on earth in their past lives. Einstein reveals that she wounded him herself, but somehow he still walks. Newman shows that Ku hasn't healed yet, so they must act quick and defeat him before he gets better. Einstein wants to go right away but is stopped by Newton, who gets punched in the face for it. Newman tells everyone that they must all fight together if they want to defeat Ku, and everyone cheers. Tuya stands at the riverbank, tossing stones in the water, lost in his thoughts about the upcoming battle. He remembers Ku telling him that this would be a massive battle and he should practice as he is still a rookie. Underneath a nearby bridge, a shadowy figure stands. It walks towards Tuya. It is Vlad the Impaler. Tuya asks what he's doing here at this hour, but Vlad is angry. He yells at Tuya to return the talent he stole from him. Tuya asks him if he told anyone about it, and Vlad says he was too embarrassed. Tuya smirks and uses his left arm. The thief uses Vlad's stolen talent on Vlad and ends him in an instant. He reveals that he fooled the companions by only showing them his left arm, and now his real intentions come out. He wishes to steal everyone's talent in the war, friends and foes alike. He wants to surpass his brother by stealing everyone's talent. So in the end, neither the sinners nor the greats, only him. The phone rings, it's Newman. She has completed her research on the whereabouts of Ku. Tuya finds it oddly quick that it only took her 1 week to find the location of the enemy. He still has a lot of preparation left, but Yahello sits at his window, claiming to be ready. He invites her through the door, but Einstein says there's no time. She puts her hand on Tuya, and they're instantly transported to an unknown place. Tuya thinks it's the enemy hideout, but he's corrected by Halfcock that they are here to get additional greets, whom he has yet to ever see. As they enter, Caesar rushes Halfcock, but she swiftly dodges his hug, making Tuya fall into it. Wasting no time, Caesar grabs Halfcock by her chin and offers her to stay for the night. Halfcock is suddenly attacked by a girl wielding swords similar to hers. She blocks her and is greeted by her energetic friend, Jubei. Tuya is greeted by Yaju, who apologizes that he got caught up in it, followed by Caesar. Caesar weirds Tuya out, but he is comforted by Newton, who shows him a map of the surrounding terrain. Tuya is glad to see so much talent gathered at one location. Newman takes attendance and tells everyone the plan to take out the Sinner army. She explains the terrain of the Sinner base and divides the areas into different teams. She describes the routes of Earth and Heaven fortresses and then the central castle. Newman believes that she, too, will join the battlefield because the radio is unfavorable in that area. Everyone is excited, and they are given 4 route options by Newman, and everyone can choose what route they follow. Fosaka takes the Earth Fortress route, and Tuya is selected as his partner. Tuya is surprised, but Fosaka persuades him to become his partner. Tuya, seeing that his plan will not work like this amidst his breakdown. All the teams are made, and they all go down their separate paths. Halfcock is about to break the gate open, but she jokes that after this battle, her power will be good enough that Tuya will want to steal it. This catches him off guard, but the gate swings open and the battle begins. Newman orders the Wright brothers to fly up and set up radio devices all over the sky. They use their talent to create wings and fly high into the sky and deploy the satellites. Newman is now in contact with all 4 teams and acts as the communications between them. Fosaka asks Tuya if he's worried about Halfcock because he thinks they are in a relationship. Tuya denies it but suddenly stops talking. He worries that if he deepens his relationship with Fosaka, he will hesitate to take his talent later. They are talking and suddenly, they are encountered by an enemy. The Sinner crushes rocks with his bare hands. The second company is also confronted by an enemy. A Sinner asks Schrödinger to take out his weapon, and their similar interests make them start their battle. As Darwin walks through the forest, he observes creatures and their survival tactics. He finds a dead deer and is ambushed by an evil entity. Caesar's team faces a Sinner who cuts a leaf into 6 pieces and challenges them to battle. Fisher is cornered by an enemy with an elephant's foot who stomps the ground so hard it breaks. He is impressed by his opponent's talent. Newman uses the data to calculate everyone's enemy's abilities. Tuya and Fosaka are tossed around by their enemy, who rips trees off the ground with his bare hands. Tuya is about to use his talent, but Fosaka asks him to dodge the enemy's attack. An invisible person is seen observing the fight. Schrödinger is in a duel with his enemy Halfcock. They let off bullets at each other and Schrödinger is injured. Halfcock makes fun of Schrödinger as he lets off one final bullet into his head. As he turns around to walk away, he hears gunshots and turns around to find Schrödinger standing unharmed. But all of Halfcock's allies have been eliminated. Halfcock is shocked. He asks for an explanation and Schrödinger explains that he can freely choose from probabilities. Whenever Halfcock takes out Schrödinger once, he switches parallel worlds to where he was never injured. Schrödinger aims at Halfcock and with his eyes closed, takes one shot to end him. Fosaka takes aim and fires bullets and even grenades at his foe, but to no avail. He blocks everything with his hands, then falls back and decides to delay their enemy and wait when suddenly Fosaka is struck down by his enemy. Before he can grab Fosaka and injure him, Tuya acts fast and pushes him out of harm's way. Darwin's interest in his enemy's talk makes him angry. His enemy charges at him, but he manages to dodge it. The Ripper jumps at him, but Darwin uses the evolution to evolve his moment like a fly and dodges all the attacks. Darwin counterattacks and injures Ripper and calls him an inferior species for not changing. Tuya is surprised that their enemy fell down on its own. Shocked, Tuya sees all their enemies fall, one by one. But Fosaka reveals that they have a third member who is invisible and uses his talent to inject enemies with venom that kills them instantly. Fosaka explains things to Tuya, but he is worried that he can't steal any talent, and Faber is watching them with his stealth. Fosaka uses this time to report back to Newman. Fosaka questions her judgment of suspecting Tuya as a spy, but Fosaka doesn't think so because Tuya saved him moments ago. Newman tells Fosaka to keep an eye out for Tuya as she believes he may be trying to gain his trust. She tells him that if he can confirm Tuya as their spy, he may execute him. Caesar's company has defeated their enemy and argues as they move forward. Fisher, too, has emerged victorious. He walks forward. An enemy with the two-eyed pupil symbol rejoices as he watches his companions fall individually. The king's throne room cheers as the fighting continues as if they enjoy every battle. Nostradamus tells Ku that their army is falling one by one, but Ku tells him not to worry as everything is under control. He admires Newman's radar. Nostradamus asks permission to assassinate greats individually but is stopped by Ku. Ku orders a sniper to shoot the radar down with one bullet. The sniper takes aim and fires, but the bullet shatters before it reaches the Wright brothers. Confused, he aims again, and when he shoots again, the bullet breaks before it can do any damage. The sniper realizes this and thinks that there must be another sniper whose skill far exceeds his own for him to shoot a moving bullet. He scopes in and finds the legendary sniper Simo Heya protecting them. He fires at the radio again but is blocked. Newman asks Heya if he needs assistance, but he says he has everything under control. The sniper, tired, now scopes and points his sniper directly at Heya, but finds himself in a different domain, covered with white snow, confused regarding how he got here. He realizes that this is Heya's talent. In Heya's territory, Whitman fires a shot and announces the world is filled with snow and it muffles noise. Suddenly, Whitman hears a shot and realizes Heya is in there too. He is confused about how Heya found him in this extensive domain. He realizes that he gave up his position with his earlier shot and that Heya missed him on purpose or if he is playing with him. He checks his scope and finds Heya standing next to him. He exclaims if it is confidence or arrogance. Nevertheless, he uses clockwork expansion, and both men, with their hands on the triggers, fire at each other, and the scene shifts back to the battleground where Heya's teammates ask him why he stowed his gun away. He reassures them that he was victorious. The scene then shifts, and we see Whitman lying on the ground beside his sniper. With his last breaths, he tells his king that he saw Heya's one-on-one talent, that whenever Heya and his opponent point their guns at each other, they are transferred to Heya's stadium, an utterly white world where time stands still. He then warns his king, be careful. He apologizes for not being able to avenge the deaths of his friends, but the king tells him not to worry about it and asks if he enjoyed himself, to which Whitman replies that he had the best time ever. The scene now moves to Darwin, where his opponent wants them to keep destroying each other with their talents, but Darwin tells him to look at himself and that only half of him remains. The opponent says half of it is enough, but he cannot move anymore. We see Darwin explaining to his opponent that the red dots on the radar are the sinners who, without any plan, attacked them and in less than 10 minutes were almost completely wiped out. But the sinner seems happy, so Darwin asks him why he serves such a self-indulgent king. The sinner replies that his king is not self-indulgent. Instead, he gave the sinners a path of survival and the best place to die. The sinners mock Darwin, saying that he wouldn't understand it even if he died. We see a flashback of the same sinner sitting atop a high building, and the king appears behind him, calling him his full name and inquiring if he wishes to jump off. The sinner asks the king if he wants to get ripped by him. The king reveals that the Ripper has been killing animals to try and stop himself from killing humans. Ripper says that by killing himself, he will show his last kindness. The king mocks him and tells him that it is not his fault he attained a sinner's powers and that he should use them to live freely. Ripper then confirms and asks who wishes to live like this. The king offers his hand and asks Ripper to come with him, saying that he should die with a smile displaying his talents and that he will carry his burden. Ripper then laughs that King is eviler than him to carry his burden. The king holds his hand as tears fall, and we are back in the present. The Ripper rejoices in his last moments, realizing the king holding his hand was the best. Back at the king's place, the king says that the eye has been cut off as all the sinners are dead. Nostradamus calls the king as a shadowy figure appears behind him. He says that their companions are all dead and that the sniping has failed. The shadowy figure picks up the sniper. The king looks back and says it's time. The scene then moves to Schrodinger's group, where he is asked to join the forest group as they are now spread too far apart. Newman explains to him that from the radar, It seems that no one is waiting for orders and is moving on its own. But Schrodinger says it would be more effective far apart. Newman tries to talk him out of it, but Schrodinger tells him that he will join the others when he has cleaned all sinners, and cats are known for their cleanliness. He advises Newman to let all the others do what they want. The scene now moves to the Wright brothers, who are celebrating in the sky that the sinners are not as good as they say. Newman seems worried that it wasn't as exciting as she hoped, but advises them to be careful. She looks back and sees Heiha, who says that he is tired and is going to sleep. She tells him to wake up. And what if something goes wrong? And the others tell her not to worry because everything has gone smoothly. She grins and says that's why it's weird, it went too smoothly. Because King Ku is a genius and he shouldn't lose this badly, she expresses that she has a bad feeling about this. Suddenly, the Wright brothers are shot and Ku appears, mocking them so that they think they can rest easily because the constant victories have strained them and lowered their subconscious guard. Newman realizes they have lost communication with the Wright brothers. They fall behind her, and she realizes they've been hit. Ku appreciates his companion, the white feather, the shadowy figure from earlier holding the sniper. Nostradamus questions Ku about how he got so many sinners killed for this one shot, and Ku reassures him that sinners are no match for greats even if they band together. He further states that elite sinners can destroy sinners and introduces 4 of his 5 fierce generals: Mastermind, the Fruit of Corruption, White Feather, and Phoenix. He tells them to go out and party as much as they want. The scene then moves to Fosaka, who informs Tuya that communications with Newman were cut off. He is now confused as he is following orders regarding Tuya, so he puts his hand on the trigger to decide for himself. Tuya shouts and warns him of an enemy ambush, but it is too late to dodge. Fosaka decides he can't dodge, but suddenly the enemies are impaled. He looks back at Tuya, who has used his left hand, but Fosaka realizes that Tuya used Lord Impeller's talent. He asks him at gunpoint to explain himself for using the talent of a sinner. He calls him a spy, but Tuya is flabbergasted. Fosaka orders him to start talking, or he will shoot him. Tuya confesses that the timing is not correct. He just stole a talent, and he is not a spy. Tuya believes no one will believe him because of the bad timing, but suddenly, Fosaka says, "I believe you," and Tuya is astonished. He asks how Fosaka would believe him. Fosaka explains that even though he hid his talent from his teammates, he used it to defend himself without thinking about it. Fosaka says that even though he may not be as good at guessing as Newman, Fosaka cannot suspect him because Tuya has defended him twice but advises him to explain things a little. Things about himself as he extends Tuya his hand. Tuya is displaying the thief's left arm. He impales a mat and is significantly appreciated by Heido. Tuya explains his intent to use his left arm thief to surpass his brother. He sees Heido sitting in front of him and asks her to straighten her clothes as he does not know where to look at her. Heido then mocks Tuya that she thought he was too weak with just one arm and that now he is worthy of her expectations. Tuya then asks if she is okay with him stealing talents because he will be stealing them even from his companions. She tells him that the greats have better talent than the sinners, so it's obvious where he will collect his talents, but she tells him to do his best. Tuya wonders if it is okay, but Heido explains that if a great has his talent stolen, they are too weak and it's their own fault. Tuya is shocked that he cares less about their companions than he imagined, but convinces himself that he is not the right person to judge her. Heido then reassures Tuya, saying she knew he had turned his phones off to avoid Newman's detection. He agrees and tells her that he only wanted to clarify it. Heido says that she is happy and suddenly pushes Tuya against a wall and tells him that it really makes her angry that she wasn't the first great to try to steal powers from Tuya. Tuya explains that he didn't think about it because he considers her a good friend of his, to which Heido replies that these are all excuses and if Tuya wants it, everything else does not matter. She looks away and says she knows why he hasn't tried to take her talent. It is because her talent has yet to reach maturity. Yet, she puts her pinky in his face and makes him promise that in the next fight, she will mature her talent for the sake of her father's dojo, to an extent where Tuya can't resist stealing it, to which Tuya replies that he too will collect talents for the sake of surpassing his brother and for his own sake. Heido makes him promise to meet with her after the battle ends and Tuya agrees. In the next scene, Tuya sits with Fosaka, who knows that Tuya wants to collect talents to surpass his brother. He asks him why he tells Musashi because if Newman hears about this, she will faint. He confesses that he told him everything, bit by bit, as if it just slipped out of his tongue. He wonders if he is not good at lying to people similar to him. Fosaka gets off the fence, and Tuya tells him that he has already decided. He then wonders if Fosaka will arrest him or execute him. Still, he jumps off the fence, saying that whatever Fosaka does, he has already made his plan to collect talents. Fosaka wonders if he should give himself up to Tuya because he thinks Tuya will take his talent. But Tuya puts his hands forward so Fosaka can arrest him. Fosaka salutes Tuya and informs him that he will help him. Tuya is confused, but Fosaka clarifies that if Tuya wants to take his talent, he will have to take it forcefully and warns him that he is powerful. Tuya, still confused, inquires why Fosaka would help him, to which Fosaka replies that he fancies people like Tuya. Tuya wonders what qualities Fosaka fancy about him, and Fosaka wonders if there is something else Tuya is after. Fosaka then asks Tuya to hurry up and move. They reach the Earth Branch Fortress, and Tuya tells him that once they pass it, they will be in sight of the main castle. Fosaka needs clarification that the place looks like an arena, not a fortress, and thinks humans are contradictory creatures. And Tuya doesn't understand himself. On the one hand, Tuya wishes to steal everyone's talent, and on the other, he protects them as well. He then states that he is contradictory because he is still human. Tuya then asks Fosaka his reason for pursuing talent, but Fosaka says that he does not remember what happened to him when he was still human. They then open the fortress door and enter. The scene now moves to Heiha, who is covering his eyes and sees the Wright brothers fallen on the ground. Hans cleanses himself to cover his companions from enemy fire, but they are all shot through instantly. Heiha realizes it is sniper fire and says he didn't know that they had 2 snipers, and this one is strong as well, so strong that he destroyed all the clones in an instant. He realizes that if Newman is hit, the grates will crumble, so he must stop White Feather no matter what. Heiha pulls White Feather into his talent, White Hell, and wants to defeat him and head back. But he thinks about the weird appearance he just made and focuses on finding and defeating this sniper quickly. He scopes in, but something is blocking his scope. He looks up and finds the other sniper has put his hand on Heiha's sniper. White Feather pushes Heiha's sniper into the snow and mocks the length of his sniper for being too long and tells him that it is unusable at such close range. He points out that Heiha relies on his scope despite not needing it. Heiha wonders what sort of sniper comes close in battle. The sniper then admires Heiha's talent and points out that because time is frozen in the world, Whitman loses because he relies on time to use his full potential. Heiha admires White Feather's skill and suddenly realizes that he is Halfcock. Halfcock nods and tells him that he will move 2,000 feet away so they can start their battle again. But Heiha is confused that Halfcock, a hero of the Vietnam War, would be with the sinners he asks him. Still, Halfcock reassures him that he will understand when he fights him. The scene returns to the Earth Fortress, where Tuya gets up from underneath the rubble, stating that the door blasted from inside. Fosaka asks if Tuya is okay, but Tuya freaks out, seeing blood on Fosaka's head and asking him the same. Fosaka reminds him that he cannot die, but Tuya says that it's painful to just look at him. Suddenly, they hear someone calling them slow. They look up and see a figure standing who tells them that he was waiting for them for so long that he began to lose patience and was about to blow a trumpet to make them aware of his position. When he has their attention, he wants them to start fighting. Seeing the enemy, Fosaka rushes towards him, knowing he must be the enemy's target. He calls the enemy Phoenix and states that Phoenix is immortal like himself. Tuya is confused. He recalls Phoenix being a German hero from World War II. Why would he be in the Sinner's army? Phoenix calls Tuya by name and Tuya wonders how he knows his name. Phoenix and Fosaka both fire at each other. Fosaka's head is blown off and Phoenix is unharmed. Tuya is shocked, but Phoenix tells Tuya to look well and tells him that he will understand after he sees it. The scene switches between Heiha standing off against Halfcock and Tuya and Fosaka against Phoenix with the captions. Everything is hidden within the battle. The Earth Fortress with huge crates in the ground, smoke still clearing, and from the smoke, Fosaka emerges, half his skeleton still visible. In an instant, he regenerates back to normal. Phoenix admires Fosaka's immortality of self-regeneration. Phoenix is about to say something about this immortality, but he is interrupted by Fosaka, who pulls out several guns and tells him to talk about his immortality and death. Phoenix tells Fosaka to make him shut up and points his rifle at Fosaka. He shoots Fosaka, but Fosaka manages to dodge the bullets. He takes cover, pulls out 2 grenades and tosses them at Phoenix, all while Tuya is in hiding. Behind cover, he analyzes that although both are immortal, they wield different weapons because they belong to various military branches. He points out that Fosaka was the infantry, so he wields guns and grenades, whereas Phoenix wields a heavy machine gun that only a bomber would carry. He is interrupted by noise and he peeks up to see a bomber plane that deployed several bombs on the ground. The whole ground is covered by the blast, sees Fosaka recovering and realizes the intensity of the explosion was too much for Fosaka to make a counterattack. He remembers Faber, who, with his super stealth, ambushes Phoenix, but he cannot see any signs of Faber alongside them. On the other hand, Faber is lost in the forest. The radar is not working, but he reassures himself that Fosaka is immortal. He cannot die no matter the enemy, so he can take his time to catch up to him. But a sinner lurks behind him unbeknownst to Faber. As Faber moves ahead, he sees 2 people sitting up ahead. Upon closer inspection, he realizes they are sinners. He prepares his injection to kill them without them ever knowing, but suddenly, the larger of the 2 rushes towards him. In disbelief, Faber barely dodges the attack. The smaller sinner then calls him and calls his ability a cheat to be completely silent. She then introduces herself as Hitler and her partner as Pol Pot. She then reveals to Faber that she can see through his stealth because of her talent, mastermind, and that she knows the talent of everyone else. She announces that they can see through the stealth of Pol Pot's ability, Fruit of Corruption. The forest was decayed by it, and now they can smell Faber easily as he lacks the smell of decaying, revealing his location. Pol Pot then attacks Faber, sending him flying. Hitler pities Faber's death and asks who is next. She tells her eye, which has a Nazi cross for a pupil that can see all the other greats. She then wishes to take them all out. Back at the fortress, Tayo, still hiding, loves the smell of sulfur, as both the immortals are firing at each other with everything they have. Phoenix mocks Fosaka for being useless. Tayo, now feeling bored, realizes that neither of them will die and the battle will stretch on because Fosaka heals and Phoenix remains unharmed. Phoenix again dispatches bombs. Fosaka takes cover with Tayo and admires Phoenix's skill, asking Tayo if he is enjoying this fight. Fosaka then reveals that he sees no chance of winning and asks him if he ever feels tired after using his talent, to which Tayo replies that he often does and if he reverts to his original form when he gets tired. Fosaka tells Tayo that every time he uses his talent, it takes a toll on his mental and physical capabilities. Fosaka admits that he cannot defeat Phoenix as he is reaching the limits of his immortality. Amidst the battle, Fosaka suddenly appears in a room with the greats. He needs clarification about what is going on. Newman tells everyone that she suspected the composition of the enemy forces and Ku himself told them. She adds that Ku finds it much more interesting to show them the cards he has rather than hiding them. Einstein adds that Ku went out of his way to tell them these things. Newman says that due to his insane behavior and a habit of not lying, it has become easier for them to strategize against the sinners accordingly, and now the greats have a well-adjusted plan of attack. Einstein questions Newman why she only summoned a few of them and not all of them to inform her about the new plan. She replies that it is about morale and she only summoned the greats that she trusts and no one else. She further states that the enemy forces have 300 sinners, but they do not pose a problem. She adds that the 5 generals Ko has on his side are a problem for them. She names all the generals and Fosaka realizes that their battle is not only with the sinners but also heroes. Fosaka finds it hard to believe that Ku recruited such reincarnations. The meeting ends and he snaps back to reality, behind cover, finds the information provided in the meeting credible. Tayo questions Fosaka's murmuring, but Fosaka tells him he is thinking about his companions out of the blue. Tayo scolds him, saying they should be worried about themselves in this situation. Fosaka tells him he has realized why events have led to where they are. The scene shifts to Heiha's dimension. He is surprised that his opponent is great too, and he states that this will waver their belief of cleansing the world of sinners, making it harder to fight. Heiha is excited to fight another great. He barely hides his excitement and fires a shot at Halfcock, but to no avail, Halfcock stays in hiding, never returning a shot. He fires again to confirm his theory that Halfcock is not returning fire because he cannot. Halfcock, too, has realized that in this dimension, Heiha's shot has about twice the range of his sniper, and if they were to fire directly at each other, he would lose. He cannot win in Heiha's territory. Heiha is very excited to battle another great after fighting dull sinners his entire life, scopes in and challenges Halfcock to fight back. In his scope, he sees Halfcock with his hands in the air, giving up. He is surprised and disappointed, even if it is his hunting ground. It is shameful to just give up when at a disadvantage, but Halfcock turns his back and starts walking away, mad. Heiha aims at Halfcock to end him in one shot, but suddenly, the background changes from white snow into a lush green forest. This is Green Hell Halfcock's talent. Heiha realizes that their talents are similar and that Halfcock has switched the tide of events to his favor. His hunting ground, a lush green forest, but something off the ground is still covered in thick snow. Halfcock appears in front of him and exclaims his interest in this hell where both their talents overlap in a fantasy world, a snowy rainforest. The scene moves to Newton and Einstein walking through the forest, Einstein hiding behind Newton, who comforts her by telling her that all enemies are defeated and that they haven't even encountered any enemies and are looking for any leftovers. Einstein calls Newton an optimistic applehead. Suddenly, they hear noise from a bush, but it turns out to be a cat. Newton laughs and gets punched in the head by Einstein. Newton tells her to go wait in the camp if she's scared, but she threatens to kill him. Newton confronts her, saying that she has only ever cared about the reincarnation of Da Vinci. Einstein shies away and Net One again mocks her for her pure-hearted expression. As they move forward, they hear the noise again, but it's just Darwin. Einstein wants to punch Darwin for scaring her, but he falls down, his back stabbed and covered with blood. Einstein is going to scream, but Newton shuts her mouth with his hand and hides behind cover. They see Hitler and Pol Pot make fun of Darwin's theory of evolution. Hitler is laughing but suddenly stops and asks Schrödinger if he will attack them, informing him that she knows her ability of probabilities. She then mocks Schrödinger and said he wasn't attacking because he saw his chances of victory were 0%. Schrödinger gets mad and shoots his pistol at Pol Pot, but with his bare hand, he breaks the bullet. A blade appears out of nowhere, but Pol Pot catches it and it too starts to decay. A great standing behind them mocks that he couldn't get them with the element of surprise. Hitler welcomed him by introducing him as Bobby Fischer, the chess prodigy with his godly white army. Hitler tells him the specifics of his talent and Fischer is astonished. Hitler further tells him his pieces and that he thinks of strategies beforehand, but Pol Pot, with one blow, takes out all of Fischer's pieces, and as Pol Pot reaches for Fischer, Hitler mocks that chess does not account for death. Pol Pot sends Fischer flying. But suddenly Pol Pot falls beside Hitler and Fischer mocks her that there exist pieces outside the constraints of chess that break the rules: Knight Rider, Grasshopper, Buffalo, and Cardinal. As Fischer is rejoicing in his strength, Pol Pot wipes away all the unique pieces with one blow, says checkmate, and ends Fischer. Einstein is worried about how easily the three greats were killed and realizes that these enemies cannot be killed just by impulse. Suddenly, Newton asks for the attention of the sinners and tells them if they defeat him, Newman will let both of them live. Newton hides behind a tree, but since Pol Pot's attack comes, he barely escapes. The entire section of the forest is rotten by a single attack. Hitler mocks Newton for running away, calling him shameful. Still, Newton playfully replies that you will not be baited out of his hiding spot by some words because, for him, the one who lives is the victor. Atop a tree branch, Newton wonders if he could defeat such a formidable opponent. He gathers his thoughts to think of a plan, but Pol Pot uses his Nazi eye to find Newton's location. He uses his fruit of destruction to destroy more trees, and again, Newton escapes at the last moment. Still, he is attacked again before he can hide and barely dodges. Hitler, amused by this, tells him that her talent, mastermind, is omnipotent and cannot be escaped. She points out Einstein's hiding behind the tree, crawled up into a ball, scared for her life. She further states that Einstein's power is translocate. She can transport herself to any location within seconds, her range being the entire world, and her power is the most versatile talent. Hitler questions her for her cowardness, even though her power is so strong, and replies that her talent's weakness is that she can only transport to the places she knows. She has to first personally catalog the position to use it later on. In a home, she has an advantage, but in an unknown area where power is useless. Hitler tells her that Pol Pot will erase and change the terrain, and she can no longer translocate anywhere. Einstein is shocked. She freezes in her place, and Newton notices this. He lets go of the cat from earlier, and as he is putting it down, he notices an eye of Ku underneath the cat and realizes it has been seen, and it is what gave away their location to the enemy. Pol Pot walks towards Einstein. He mocks that if she comes out herself, he will end her painlessly. Einstein, now hopelessly, wants the Greats to retreat. As Pol Pot is about to grab Einstein, Newton kicks him. Newton tells everyone that Silver Tongue was also Hitler's weapon, and they should not be intimidated by her words. Everyone is shocked that Newton attacked Pol Pot from his blind spot. He has figured out that Pol Pot is blind and uses the eyes of Ku to see. He gets the cat out of his coat and shows everyone that underneath Ku's eye is Hitler's symbol, the Hakenkreuz. Newton then reveals to everyone that he has figured out Hitler's ability as well. Newton tells everyone that Hitler can share senses with everything the symbol touches. He further states that Hitler had applied these symbols to every organism in the forest, and they were collecting data on the Greats and managed to figure out everyone's ability, even though Einstein didn't use her power. Hitler knew because Ku told him, and Newton told him that her talent would not fool him. He was impressed. She stated that she didn't think the gathering of Greats had a person of such excellent observation skills. Hitler tells them that this does not change anything because to defeat her talent, they have to kill every creature in the forest. Moreover, they cannot stop Pol Pot's ability to destroy everything. Hitler then gives them the choice to run or perish. Pol Pot then attacks them. Newton pulls out an apple and tells Einstein to stay behind him as they run away because they do not know his ability yet, and if he uses it correctly to bait them into his range of attack, he can kill Pol Pot with one blow. Still, if they figure out his talent, then they have lost. The scene then shifts to the Earth Forest, where Fosaka is shown half dead. Phoenix throws his bombs at him, but Fosaka punches a bomb back at Phoenix. From the flames of the bomb, Phoenix emerges unharmed. He is impressed that Fosaka can deflect a 500 kilograms bomb. Fosaka jumps at Phoenix, firing both his rifles at him. When Fosaka comes close to Phoenix, he hits him with the back of his gun, but it shatters. He pulls out another gun to hit Phoenix, but Phoenix dodges it and kicks Fosaka back. Fosaka, with half his head missing, smiles at Phoenix, and Phoenix, acknowledging it, says that Fosaka is finally enjoying the battle between immortals. Still, he states Fosaka is getting tired and cannot wholly regenerate himself back to the new. Both laugh and attack each other with fists as Tuya watches them from behind a half-fallen wall. Fosaka is thrown back by Phoenix, and Tuya realizes that Fosaka has no tactics. He is fighting recklessly. He wonders what happened to Fosaka and always remains cool-headed. Fosaka gets up with his entire skull showing but laughing as if he is enjoying this fight.